everybody. Welcome back to Crafting and Crime Daily. I'm your host, Rebecca, and I recap live trials so you have something to listen to while you're working on those wonderful craft projects. Last night, I started in my live a loom knitting thing, so I'll show you how far I got. I did this, throughout the evening and listening to the closing or the opening statements in this new case I'm going to tell you about today. New Hampshire versus Adam Montgomery for the murder of his 5-year-old biological daughter, Harmony Montgomery, back on December 7th of 2019. So yesterday was a very, very unusual start to a case that I have ever seen. The jury comes in. First of all, there's no defendant. And the judge has to instruct them they're not to infer anything by his not being present. He's allowed not to be present. And they will ask him every day if he wants to be present. And apparently he opted not to come to court today either. So yesterday, this whole thing starts out by the clerk of court reading the charges. And it's read in this old English style with these big words, these, colloquial words. And, I'm not going to repeat I can't because I've never heard of those words. Anyway, so the first charge is on July 1st, or sometime between July 1st and the 22nd of 2019. He's charged with second-degree assault by striking Harmony in the face. Now, yes, this involves the death of a 5-year-old. I understand if this is triggering to some of you, and I will let you know I'm not going to describe the brutal murder that happened. I'm not going to go into depth with that. Okay. The second charge is on December 7th of 2019. He's charged with second-degree murder. On the third charge is December 7th through March 4th of 2019. He's charged with falsifying physical evidence and concealing the body of Harmony Montgomery. Her body has never been found. The fourth charge is December 7th through March 4th, 2019, abuse of a corpse. And then the final charge is December 7th, 2019 through January 4th of 2022. 2 years. Tampering with witnesses and informants and requiring his ex-wife, Kayla Montgomery, to testify falsely. Then the clerk says, "Hearken the evidence." What the heck? I know. So at this point, the judge says to the jury, "Okay, this is where we usually do opening statements, but we're going to do things a little differently." And I'm thinking, what? Okay. They're going to get on a bus and go to several places. Now, she said, you'll hear, if we have time after this afternoon when we get back, they'll do opening statements. If not, we'll start fresh tomorrow morning with opening statements, which is what they did. But each side will have an opportunity to speak to you about the jury view, what you should pay attention to. Okay. So, and not do an opening. So the jury view, according to the prosecution, they're first going to go to a methadone clinic. Now, they're not getting off the bus. We're just going to drive by. We'll stop the bus so you can see the methadone clinic. Claiming that this is where the murder began. Then it proceeded to the bus is going to take you to the Burger King parking lot. So on the way to Burger King, you should pay attention to stoplights, road conditions, traffic. How long does it take to get from Burger King or from the methadone clinic to Burger King? All these things you should be paying attention to. Because the murder was just one long, continuous assault that started at the methadone clinic and proceeds to the parking lot at Burger King. Now, I don't know if they got to get out of the parking lot and walk around, but I suspect not. Bus is going to pull in, and yeah. So then you're going to be taken by bus to the parking lot of these nearby apartments called Colonial Village. This is where Adam Montgomery, Kayla Montgomery, Harmony Montgomery, and two little boys that Adam and Kayla had together all were living in their Chrysler Sebring for 10 days prior to that. Then we're going to a bank. Now, some of you jurors might recall this wasn't always a bank. It used to be a pizza parlor. Well, Adam had gotten a job after the murder. He got a job at the pizza parlor. And so we're going to take you to the pizza parlor. We're not getting out, we're just driving by. And then we're going to take you to Union Avenue to a homeless shelter. Not going in, just driving by. And all of this is to help you understand the evidence better. Okay, interesting. Field trip. Bring your permission slips. Okay. So I knew something was going on because I've never heard of starting with a jury view. But here's the reason. I suspect the judge wanted to give the attorneys more time to reevaluate their opening statements because the defendant conceded guilt. The defendant's attorney said, "Can we go sidebar?" They go sidebar, and we come back and we find out the defendant has asked to concede guilt on the charge of falsifying physical evidence by concealing her body and abuse of a corpse. Now, he's not changing his plea to guilty. He's just conceding it. So what that means is the defense attorney during his opening can get up and say, and he did, my client, go ahead, find my client guilty of those two charges. We're conceding it. We're telling you right now, yes, he's guilty of that. Find him guilty, because it is still up to a jury. But he didn't commit the murder. His wife, Kayla Montgomery, committed the murder, which is, I thought, where that was going to go, that they were going to point the finger at Kayla Montgomery. But here's what you have to keep in mind. What he says during opening statements is not evidence. They're going to have to put on some kind of evidence still of what he did to her body. And is he now going to tell us where he put the body? You just conceded that you're guilty of those two charges. So tell us what you did with the body. Okay. So the opening statement by the prosecution started this morning. And he starts out by saying, "Where is Harmony Montgomery?" You know, everyone from Florida to Alaska was looking for Harmony Montgomery. Now, I remember this back in 2022. This was all over YouTube, all over the news, that, mom was like, "Where's my daughter?" And he said, "Well, I dropped her off with you at Thanksgiving." They're going like this. And people are interviewing her biological mom, and they're interviewing Adam, and they're both like, "No, no." Yeah. Where is she? Nobody knew where she was. And so he says, the only person that knows where she is the biological father. And the only person that wasn't concerned with where she was her biological father. And this whole murder, he stemmed from, I'm not going to describe the murder, but the whole murder stemmed from, she had been living in this vehicle and she had a problem with soiling herself. And we'll talk about why that was, but he got upset because she had done it again. Yeah. But he went to great lengths to cover up his crime. So the prosecution describes what happened. He comes out of that methadone clinic, he finds out she soiled herself, and the murder begins and continues through the Burger King parking lot. Because he was hungry after his methadone. Both he and Kayla went and got their methadone treatment. And then, isn't methadone supposed to like keep you off of drugs? Because later on they, anyway, whatever. So they get their methadone. They're hungry. They go through the Burger King parking lot, drive through, get their food. They go to the parking lot of Colonial Village where they used to live 10 days ago, but now they're just living in the parking lot. Eat their food. Harmony's moaning and groaning in the back seat. It eventually stops. After they eat their food, they're going somewhere else. Apparently, they did drugs for a period of time in the parking lot that day, too. After their methadone, they're doing drugs. Anyway, they get to a traffic light after they leave the parking lot, and their car breaks down. So now they're realizing they don't have money to fix this car or get it towed somewhere. They're just going to abandon the car. So they get out of the car, and now he realizes, he's trying to wake Harmony up. She's not responding. He's like, wake up, wake up. She's not responding. So he has to put her into a bag. And I'll show you a picture of the bag. He puts her into this bag, and then they leave. So over the next few months, he's taking this body from place to place to place, all of which they did on the jury view, and that we're going to hear evidence of. At one point, she's in a bag. At another point, she's in a cooler. He would take her with him when he got the job at the pizza parlor. Every day, every shift he worked, he would bring her with him. I don't know if she brought her in the bag or the cooler, but he would put that in the freezer while he was working, where all the food is kept and stuff, which might be why it's now a bank and not a food establishment. So they eventually get a new apartment. Well, actually, let me back up a little bit. While they were staying at a homeless shelter, he put her up in the ceiling, and then they eventually get a new apartment. He brings her to the new apartment, takes her in the bathroom, and um, I'm not going to say what he did anyway, but he rents a U-Haul and he takes the body and he tells Kayla, I'm going to take the body somewhere where it should never be found. Now, it was his impression that if authorities never found her body, he could never be charged. Boy, was he wrong. So then the prosecution talks about Harmony Montgomery, sweet, sweet little girl. She was born June 4th of 2014 to Adam and her biological mother, Crystal Sorey. I wonder if we're going to hear from her. Probably. So she, because mom's got a drug problem, dad's got a drug problem, she goes into foster care. And she lives with foster parents for the first 4 years of her life. And I think we're going to hear from them, and they're going to say she was potty trained very early on. So when he gets custody, Adam Montgomery gets custody of her when she's 4 years old. That was in February of 2019. And according to the prosecution theory, that she was afraid of him because he would beat her. And so she started having accidents. She started regressing, especially when they were in this car for 10 days. She was afraid to tell him, I gotta go, you know. So Kayla's, his wife, worked at Dunkin' Donuts. And they also had two small boys. I think I said that already. That were all five of them are living in this car. So in July of 2019, they actually lived in a home with Adam's mother and his uncle, Kevin. Well, Kevin and the grandma moved to Florida, where she proceeds to have some kind of major surgery. He's there to help her out. So he's gone for 3 weeks. He comes back at the end of the 3 weeks. He said before he left, Harmony was in pretty good condition. When he comes back, she's got a black eye. So he asked Adam what happened to her. And Adam, I'm not going to tell you what he said because it's disgusting, but he admits that he beat her. So Kevin is just appalled. He leaves. He's not going to stay there. He leaves and he calls the Department of Children and Families. And I don't know what they call it in New Hampshire, but equivalent to that. A social worker comes out twice and finds no evidence of abuse or neglect. Apparently, Adam's story then was he found Harmony suffocating his infant. Okay. So then the defense, like I said, they get up and they say, Kayla did it. It was her. So Kayla's going to take the stand. But the whole reason this came to light is because Kayla got arrested for theft. And while she's in jail, she figures out, hey, this is at the time where, because their police are on to her. Where's Harmony? So she's trying to work with the police. And according to the defense attorney, she figured out in prison that she could get immunity if she came up with this, if she changed her story, because her story was consistent with Adam's. We dropped her off at Thanksgiving with her mom. So she figured out if she changes her story and tells the real truth, she's going to get immunity. And she wants it all. She wants residential treatment program, ankle monitor when she gets out. She doesn't want to lose custody of her kids. She wants to be able to reside with her kids and no charges of anything for her. Well, I don't know what the actual deal said, but she eventually does work out a deal with them. And so the defense's whole argument is, hey, she's just doing this for her own gain because she got a deal. And then he starts to poke holes in her story that she came up with. For example, how is he doing this while he's driving? How's he doing that? And then why does she not describe having to calm down the two little boys? If chaos is going on in there, your infant's going to be crying, your other little boy's going to be fussing, and she doesn't describe any of that. Nor does she describe when they go through the Burger King drive-through how, she doesn't describe any efforts on the part of Adam to conceal Harmony's body. And then when they break down at the traffic light, he discovers she's dead and he's putting her into a bag. Now, they break down at a traffic light. People are honking, people are going around. Nobody sees this guy putting, this girl into a bag. So those are kind of the things we're going to see when she's on cross-examination by the defense team. It's going to be very, very interesting in this case. So that's the case so far. Now, tomorrow I will update you on the Michelle Troconis trial, so look for that, and I will bring you up to date with the evidence. The evidence has started to be presented in this case. I'll bring you up to date on Monday in this case. So have a great weekend, everybody. See you later.